Well, each week, a group of insiders joins me to offer perspective on some of the week's top stories. This week, sounding off on a smoking bill that collapsed this week at the Indiana State House. Tourism is up in Indianapolis for a 6th consecutive year, and now the New York Times is calling this museum one of the coolest in the world. Our insiders this week are Hathaway Strategies President Anne Hathaway, also Fagery Baker Daniels partner Murray Clark, and Winston Terrell Group Principal Robin Winston. Welcome one and all to the Insiders this week. Robin, I'll start with you. The short session of the Indiana General Assembly, almost to the midway point. Your take, at least so far, you know, workforce issues, the smoking bill I mentioned, Sunday alcohol sales, a couple of the issues.
Well, I mean, you know, right now they're at the halfway point. I'm going to be somewhat partisan here. I haven't seen a lot come out, and maybe that's good. They wanted smaller government, so they're getting it. They're not doing a lot. But if the fact of the matter is that, you know, they still have a long time to go in the legislative session. Their clock never stops.
And one of the measures the state chamber supported, certainly the business community, was raising the minimum smoking age to 21. Also, we're supporting an increase in the cigarette tax. The measure on raising the minimum age, it came out of committee 9-0, but then ended up being snuffed out.
It did. Gary, smoking is a personal subject for me. I lost both my parents to smoking-related disease, and I'm for raising the age, I'm for raising the tax, I'm for making Indiana a healthier state by making cigarettes harder to get a hold of. So it's hard for me to look at this politically. I just want it to get through.
Yeah. Is it, do you think, anyone can jump in on this, but the business community, the state chamber, but a number of businesses, from a business standpoint, talking about the cost of smoking and insurance and those types of things. Is this something that comes back, will be revisited next session?
Oh, I think it will be. I mean, yeah, the chamber say that they want this bill to pass, which was counter to the Republican leadership in the General Assembly, or at least one of the Republican leaders in the General Assembly. I think that they're not going to go away because that cost for their employees is not going to go away.
Yeah. Well, but the chamber is not without success, I think, in this session. You know, the chamber has led on local government reform for a long time. You see a township consolidation bill going through the process, looks very good. Workforce development legislation that the chamber is very active in, and have the cooperation of the Republican leadership at the State House. So I think the chamber will have some wins, I think, when all is said and done.
You bring up workforce, which is a big agenda item for Governor Holcomb and others. Obviously, a huge issue in the state. Do you sense that there's going to be some real traction and real workforce reforms that are going to get through them?
Well, I do, and you know, the governor is leading on this, his next level kind of workforce training program, which is really important. And you see, where folks are transitioning different jobs. I mean, we have to get about workforce training and retraining, and I think you'll see something out of the legislature. But I think you're seeing real leadership from the governor too.
Yeah. Visit Indy, late in the week, came out with big numbers on tourism, 6th straight year of what they say are record tourism numbers in terms of visitors, but also investment and spending from those tourism folks. Robin, as you look at continuing that trend, there's been a lot of talk about perhaps expanding the convention center. Others say maybe they just need a new ballroom, but a big convention center hotel.
Big convention center hotel would help, but also things that you've done policy-wise. Dealing with the RFRA issue years ago was perfect. It demonstrated that we're too busy to worry about hatred. And that's important because, you know, there used to be the old protest thing, the whole world is watching. The whole world really is watching Indianapolis to see what we're doing on issues. And that's why you're seeing Salesforce come here. That's why we're up for the NCAA. That's why people are bringing tourism dollars here.
Yeah, Leonard Hoops was on the show, off the top of this week's show, talking about the importance of nonstop flights, the nonstop to Paris, the international flight, but also the fact that I believe there are now more nonstops at Indianapolis International than any time ever, and how important that piece is.
It's so important, and there's so many exciting things happen. There is a very positive attitude. People are spending money. They're using our airport to come and go. You're seeing this in the Visit Indy numbers with how many people are coming to check our city out, the number of conventions. We're hitting it on all cylinders right now. I think that we're excited about what's happening. People are excited to check us out, and we're doing what we do best, is collaboration.
Yeah, and that collaboration piece, Murray, the Brookings institutions, one of their key players on urban issues, Bruce Katz, co-author of a book, The New Localism. And in that book, they singled out 3 cities. Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, and Copenhagen for their really visionary leadership when it comes to collaboration, public-private partnerships, academic partnerships, and getting things done. And saying Indianapolis has been ahead of the curve on that globally for a long time.
Yeah, and for different reasons, I think, on these cities. The interesting thing that I saw was that he really commended Indianapolis for what we've done well for decades, really, which is a culture of public-private cooperation and collaboration, and also really a respect for home rule, because I think he talks about a devolution of government from federal, local level. And yeah, so it's right in our sweet spot if that's what he thinks important.
Is the Indianapolis story, it seems increasingly beginning to get out now. The New York Times with that piece, is Indy cool enough for Amazon? And now this story, that Indy story that's been percolating for 20, 30 plus years is now beginning to get around the country.
And you see the kind of leadership that we had in the mayor's office. Between mayors, people cooperated. I mean, Joe was with Dick Lugar not long ago, naming a plaza in his honor. All the former mayors were there. People are trying to collaborate. They do get together. They do share ideas. You do have lots of partnerships working. I think it's great for our city.
Yeah.
I agree. Hoosiers do it right, and people are finding out our secret.
Let's shift gears now to, you talk about public-private partnership, a collaboration that helped to get Circle Center built many years ago. A lot of challenges there. We saw this week the parent company of Carson's, the department store, announced a bunch of store closings around the country, including 5 in Indiana, one of them at Circle Center. And
it's really disappointing. I think this is a real problem for downtown, for the mall. I think there'll be a lot of hand-wringing what happens next. A lot of mixed emotions about this, most of them not positive right now because we don't know what happens next.
Right. How, in your view, Robin, because that's been Circle Center for the convention crowd. Now it's changed in recent years, but that's been a big draw for that piece. How important is it to get this figured out? And no one person seems to have the answer, no one entity, but how important is it for this to be solved ultimately?
I think it's important, but you know, if you go to Philadelphia right away from City Hall, what used to be downtown stores there, straw bridges and things, have now been turned into office buildings and places in and around their center core. Same thing happened in Louisville. That's indicative of what's going on. I wouldn't be surprised that this isn't adapted into housing or office space downtown, which would be prime space.
Yeah. Speaking of housing, tiny housing, coming to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. IMS President Doug Bowles talked this week. Try It Tiny LLC, a company. There you see one of the tiny houses, the interior there. Some nice accommodations. They will be offered. You know, you had the glamping at the Speedway for the last several years. Now you're going to have tiny houses as another way to spend time, as we show the bathroom there, to spend time on the Speedway grounds in a tiny house. The Speedway's, they're pulling out all the stops.
I mean, they market 24/7. You know, they've been in New York City. They were up in Detroit at the International Auto Show. They work. We are so fortunate to have the leadership out there that gives it. They're all 24/7. They're great at marketing. You know, last year they had Alonzo was a great kind of marketing plus. This year it's the Danica Double.
Yeah.
I feel fortunate that we have the leadership out there. They're really working it.
Yeah.
I think it's great. Big race, tiny houses. It'll work out.
Yeah.
Makes the race fun.
All right. Very good. Well, that'll do it for another edition of The Insiders. Ann Hathaway, Murray Clark, Robin Winston. Thanks very much, and we'll be right back after this.